Guess who's back? Back again. Mr. Frog. He's back again. Ribbit. Ribbit, 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 ribbit. Okay, let's get started here. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 deals with Thomas Jefferson. Franklin, is he your favorite president? Yes, by far my favorite president. Ever. Okay. What do we want to talk about? Let's talk about cultural nationalism. Okay. So, the rise of cultural nationalism. There's a lot going on here, especially with education. There's a lot more educational opportunities for men and for women, especially for women. Colleges are being started. Other things are also being started as well. So, let's get started here. First off, the cultural life of Jeffersonian America both embraced and strayed from Republican ideals. Jefferson wanted a strong agrarian society in the South because that's who we are. Do you know what agrarian is? Does that mean farming? Yep, it was a farming community, exactly. Republicans wanted to create a national public school system to produce an enlightened and virtuous citizenry. Massachusetts had supported the idea of public education, but by 1815, no state had comprehensive system set up yet. Southern private schools were sponsored by religious groups, while northern private academics were very secular. There we go. Moving on here, the idea of Republican motherhood made education for females more accessible, but there were little desire to educate Indians or blacks, so there was a large part of our population that were not going anywhere, Franklin. And higher education was limited to the classics and religious training. Professional training had very little support because there wasn't a lot out there. No training for teachers yet. That's too bad. Okay, moving on to the science and the medicine piece. Excuse me. Nationalism. Nationalism inspired a cultural independence. Noah Webster published the American Spelling Book. Let me go back there. And his dictionary, which created a national linguistic standard. So it was the first time we really have a set language, set standard in our society. Although there was much copying of British authors, Americans such as Washington Irving became widely read, and patriotic historians like Mercy Otis Warren and Parson Williams were also very popular at the time. There was a new establishment towards religion. And this is kind of like the Second Great Awakening that we had. Remember the First Great Awakening? I sure do. So, the Second Great Awakening weakened... The Revolution weakened Americans' commitment to a lot of church institutions, but still held strong religious convictions. Rationalism promoted the theology such as deism, which accepted God as a creator and uninvolved with the human race. To combat these theologies, denominations promoted evangelical movements, such as Presbyterian, Methodist, and Baptist. Ministers all sought major recruits. In Virginia, Gabriel Prosser's aborted slave rebellion was inspired by the revival. Revivals for Indians, combined with Christian and Indian imagery, was creating a movement to defend native lands and traditions and reject any white man's ways. And by 1801, the evangelicalism eclipsed the influence of rational theology and became the dominant national religious characteristic. So it created a lot of free thinkers of our time period as well. Technology. This is going to be going into page 191, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yes. The technology, the cotton gin by Eli Whitney. The cotton gin's impact on the northern society was huge because all of our raw cotton went and shipped to the north. And actually, Franklin, guess what? You're made out of cotton. I am. It's so soft. Although overwhelmingly rural and agrarian, America was moving slowly in the direction of an urban industrial society. British attempts to prohibit exports of manufacturing expertise failed in the 1790s when English immigrant Samuel Slaughter established a spinning mill in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And the most important invention was by far the cotton gin by Eli Whitney in interchangeable parts. And the cotton gin gave new life to Southern agriculture and slavery. It actually promoted slavery big time because we could now produce more raw cotton, and promoted New England's textile industry as well. But we also need to have transportation that was set up by Robert Fulton Steamboat in 1807, and a private companies built turnpikes. The long roads were supported later by federal and state governments, and as a result of this, cities grew and became centers of commerce, education, and affluence in major cities. So cities like Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, all those places. Philadelphia is nice. Go check it out if you haven't been there. All right, moving on. Jefferson as president. That's going to be going into page 200 here. Oh, excuse me, no, we're not. This is page 195, going to Jefferson as president. So, are you tired? Okay, take a nap. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow. Anyways, now, let's get back to this. Jefferson as president, he tried to keep the government as simple as possible, but it didn't really work for him. First thing that he wanted to do is Republicans stressed simplicity and did not entirely repudiate the Federalist policies that were in place. He used his party and presidential powers to strengthen the Republican ideals and overwhelmingly became reelected in 1804. He had a lot of success in reversing the Federalist trend of a large central government by repealing the whiskey tax, reducing federal government spending, retiring half of the national debt, and reducing the size of the Army and Navy. He stood firm and stopped to appeasing the Barbary states by refusing to continue to pay tribute to them. Let me move on here. Okay. Now, the last part. The Federalists' last stronghold was the judiciary side of the three branches. And the judges appointed for life, and in 1803, the Supreme Court expanded the powers of the case of Marbury versus Madison, making it the province of the courts to decide on the constitutionality of any law. And this basically is the concept of judicial review. And Chief Justice at the time, John Marshall, engineered the case that sat on the court until 1835, often furthering the Federalist ideals and the stability of essential authority. Now, doubling the size of our national domain. This is where we're going to get to on page 200. And this is part of your reading for tonight, Tuesday night, page 200 to page 204. Obviously, doubling the national domain was all about the Louisiana Purchase and where we got it from. Napoleon definitely had a dream of establishing a New World empire in the New World, but he quickly regained control of Louisiana from Spain. And at the same time, Spain closed the port of New Orleans to the American shippers, and the Westerners depended on the Mississippi River to ship their produce and product, and that outraged Jefferson. Napoleon, whose army was in Santo Domingo, was decimated by disease and trying to quell the revolt of Toussaint Louverture, offered to sell the entire Louisiana territory as well. And Jefferson's dilemma was whether or not he could have this land or how he could buy this land, given that there was no explicit authority in the Constitution to acquire territory. Finally, his advisors told him that he had the power to do this, to buy this land through the treaty powers, allowed him to do so, and he ended up purchasing the Louisiana territory for $15 million. The Louisiana Territory, as you can see here on the map, doubled the United States territory. Even before the purchase, Jefferson commissioned Lewis and Clark to explore the continent, and they received aid from Sacagawea, who's a Shoshone woman, in 1804 and 1805, and also Zebulon Pike explored the upper Mississippi Valley and left his impression on much of the land as uncultivated desert. So We didn't think it was a very good purchase for us at first, but in the end, it turned out to be a great purchase. So that's where I'm going to stop at for right now. We will get into the expansion in the War of 1812 tomorrow. I'll create a new video for you there, but that's all I have for you right now. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.